Okay. I think we have some early. I can see Mr. Lawson Oiki said early birds. I think we have some early. I can see Mr. Lawson Oiki said early birds. I think we have some. Okay, Lawson, if you can hear me, just type in the chat box or use the reaction. It's my first. It's my first live, so I'm actually still trying to understand how to navigate the interface. It's my first. It's my first live, so I'm actually still trying to understand how to navigate the interface. Okay, awesome. I can see Tracy. I can see Lawson. I can see Developer Kings. Okay, awesome. All right. I can see Tracy. I can see Lawson. I can see Developer King. All right. Okay, so let's just give it like probably 5 minutes for those who are still going to join later on, for them to join. Okay, okay, there is a rare cool. Okay, so is the audio good now? I think there's no react. There shouldn't be any echo again. Is the audio good now? Kindly confirm. Okay. Yeah, I can see Lawson, Tracy, Developer Kings. So yeah, the audio is good now, right? Kindly let me know how the audio sounds from your end. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. So guys, we're gonna be kicking off in the next few minutes, like 6:05. For now, just kindly share the link to the live session so that others can join. You're gonna see a link down there. Share, just share. Click on share, then copy the link and post on your status, and just share so that other persons can join the live session. Then we'll get right into the session for today. I'm pretty excited because, like I said, it's my first live session, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to gain a lot from this session. So once it's 6:05, we'll kick off immediately. So once again, just share the link across so that more persons can join the live session. Okay. Right. Okay. Just a minute to go, and then we'll kick off. I just shared the link now on my status so that others can join the session. All right, cool. So I can see how many viewers. Uh, can see 3 persons from my own end. Yeah, awesome, guys. So first things first, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you've ever worked remotely before, you've done a remote job, probably a job that involved you just sitting in front of your laptop and working and then getting paid for it, just indicate in the comment section. You can say yes. If you haven't, you can say no. Let me just understand the audience I have currently. So if you've ever worked remotely, had opportunity to work remotely, if you have, just say yes. Well, if you haven't before, just say no, you haven't. So that I'll understand the people. Oh, someone said they can't find the link. Really? It's supposed to be able to see share. Okay, Lawson said no. Tracy said can't find the link. Once you click on share, you should be able to find the link. Or let me check if I can paste it here. Yeah, so I think I just pasted. Okay, I'm not able to paste it in the comment section. Let me just try. So yeah, while we are doing that, if you've ever worked remotely before, um, just let me know. If you've ever worked remotely, say yes. If you've ever been paid for working remotely before, then if you haven't and you want to start working remotely, also just type remote. Let me also know if I'm speaking to the right audience. So yeah, I just shared the link. That's the link to the session in the comments. For those who are saying they can't find the link. Okay? Awesome. All right. So in today's session, this whole conversation, right, and this train basically is going to be in a 10 video series. That's why if you saw the flyer, what you will notice is that I said we're going to be having 10 weekly live sessions. And this is the first session in the series. And everything will be put into a playlist where you can have access to each of the sessions from beginning to end. So even when we're done with this call, this particular call is being recorded and to be available live on my YouTube channel. So you can always go back to it and understand exactly what we are talking about. So you won't be left out, trust me. Okay? Awesome. So let's get right into today's training. So for today, the first part of the series, what we're basically going to be talking about is how to start making money online, the mindset basically, because a man said something that when the purpose of a thing is not done, abuse is inevitable. So you really want to understand if it's actually possible to make money online, if it's possible to work remotely. So for those that probably don't know me, my name is Richard Chuku and I'm a cloud engineer, computer engineering graduate. I've been working in tech for the past, I think, close to 4 years now. I started while I was on campus in school, and I've worked with several companies, several organizations globally. I've been working remotely since 2021, to be precise. Had my first remote job in 2021 as a graphics designer with a company in the UK. Worked a couple of months up to a year plus on that job, and then I transited after from a graphic designer to being a cloud engineer. I did a little back end with another company there. From back end, I then moved into cloud engineering. So my journey has been basically an exciting one and one full of many stories and many hurdles. So you're going to hear me share a lot of stories all through the series, and I just want you to stay tuned because there's a lot to actually learn. So, from someone who has years of experience accumulated even before I left school, so it's there's a lot to actually learn. Even if you've never ever worked remotely before, there's a lot for you to learn from this session. Okay, awesome. Having said that, let's get right into. So if you're still following me and you heard this introduction I just gave now, just type in the comment section. that you are following. Just type that you're following. I need to be interactive so that I know that we are all following me clearly. Okay? Just use the chat box and type that you are following so that I will know that you can hear me. Okay, I can see Marvel. Thank you, Marvel. You're following. Awesome. So, yeah, now that you've gotten to know me and I've outlined the session's objective. So, the first thing first I have on my list is what we call understanding the remote work landscape. Right. So, what is remote work basically? Remote work is basically the way I'm seated here, looking at you, looking into the camera, with my laptop, and I'm working. And I don't need to be in an office setting per se, and I get paid for working from the comfort of my home. So, remote, the idea of remote basically is that you can be anywhere in the world with a digital device and you are making money, you are working. That's the idea of work in quotes. So, first things first, you have to understand is the entire remote work landscape and how it works. So, according to research, between early August 2023 to August 2024, the percentage of remote workers has moved from like 19.5% to 22.8%. Now, precisely if you guys can remember during the pandemic, COVID-19, where most of the world sat at home, a lot of people sat at home during that time. And while some people were not doing anything at home, some persons were still being paid to work. There were a lot of people who probably had jobs that required them to visit the office and be in the office. Right? There were people who had jobs like that. They were supposed to visit the office. And during that period of time, they were not able to work. They weren't able to do anything. Some companies were not even paying their employees because the employees were not giving them value. Now, of course, you understand that when it comes to work, your idea of getting paid is you get paid according to the value you bring to the table. So no individual will hire you and just keep you in the office without doing anything and pay you free money. It doesn't work like that. So the essence of work is for you to exchange your value for money. Okay, that's the whole idea of working. So back to my story. In during the year 2019, 2020, that was the popular COVID that struck the whole world, the global pandemic. So during that time, there are lots of companies who some companies laid off their workers because, of course, when an employee is not providing value to the company, it will be a waste of resources paying that employee for doing nothing, right? So there were lots of companies who laid off their employees, while some of them were able to transition smoothly into remote work. So what that means is that they were able to provide work laptops for their employees, build softwares that enabled them to collaborate across the world. So you can see probably a company that is in the US and they have employees all over the world, Nigeria, in Ghana, in Asia, in UK, and some other places. And some of these companies were still able to ensure that they give value to their employees in terms of money, and the employees give back to the company in terms of value. So a lot of them were able to transition during that phase and still ensure that the business makes money. While for some other companies who were slow to adapt, they lost a lot of money. One, because people were not really working and value was not being provided for the company, and two, um, they laid off a lot of workers and employees. So lay off here means that they sacked. If you want to use the word sacked, they dropped off a lot of employees because, of course, they were not providing value. So, how does this actually concern us basically? If you understand exactly how the whole idea of remote to work, remote working rather, became more interesting. Prior to that time, remote work was available, but a lot of companies had not provided systems that can enable people work anywhere they are in the world. But the global pandemic really changed the entire work system, where a lot of people began to figure out that, oh, it's very possible for you to be anywhere you are in the world and make a lot of money. and that was how the whole idea of remote work became more popular, right, during the period of the pandemic. So yeah, um, now that you've understood this, the next question would now be, oh, what are now the benefits and challenges? Because like I said, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. So the first thing I'll talk about is the benefits of remote work. For somebody coming from me who has been working remotely for 3 4 years now, I can tell you that there are so many benefits actually. My first remote job, like I explained what it was with a UK company in UK company, and I was a graphics designer for that company, getting paid every month in pounds at the time. So so what happened was that uh, the benefits was that okay, I was a student and I could fend for myself with the money I was getting every single month, apart from my normal pocket money. So the money was, and converting it to my local currency, it was higher than the normal rates. So the whole idea basically was that I was able to have gain extra income to support my school needs. That was one benefit. Another benefit was that I was able to collaborate with people from across the world. So I'm a Nigerian, I'm in Nigeria while I'm working with somebody in the UK, collaborating on teams all over the world. So now what that was able to do for me was it broadened my mindset and it puts me on a global platform, on a landscape where I can compete with people in other parts of the world. So that was another benefit. And there are so many other benefits that probably during the course of the entire series, I'm going to be sharing that as time goes on. But now, coming to the challenges, because everything that is good also has challenges and issues, right, that occur from time to time. So one of the challenge that I had, and it's still actually a challenge till now working remotely, is that sometimes due to probably your language, how you speak, your accent and all that. For instance, I've worked with a company in Spain where a lot of the people in that company were Spanish guys, and due to the way they speak and the way their accent is, sometimes it's difficult for them to really understand me. But I have to really um, be clear about what I'm talking about. And most times I have to repeat myself a lot for them to really get me. And they also have to repeat themselves. So one major challenge is communication, right? Sometimes. And secondly, if you are in a third world country like we are in Nigeria, one of the problems would be your network provider is one of your biggest enemy when it comes to working remotely. So for some of us that probably have network issues trying to connect, in fact, there are certain jobs in tech in working remotely that we require to have a specific internet speed. So some, like, there was a job I wanted to apply for at the time. I wasn't able to get in because when they checked my internet speed, the test and all, it wasn't up to their standard. Now, not that my internet was not fast, but they had a standard they wanted the internet, your internet to be at. Especially some of the jobs that there are some jobs that what you are to do is it involves a lot of online calls, right, from people all over the world. So jobs like that, they expect to have strong internet connection because the value that customers get from you is very, very, very specific to your internet connectivity. So if you don't have a strong network, that can be a huge challenge working remotely. So if you're still following me till now, I want you to just um put in the chat box that you are following me. And if you are getting new value, you have not subscribed to the channel, also do well to like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, drop a comment section so that more people can get access to this training. So yeah, going back to the entire landscape of remote work. So that's one of the major challenges, right? Communication. And if you're in a country that has issues with connectivity, internet connectivity, slow network, and all that, that can be an issue sometimes. For instance, I just completed a 3 months internship, a global internship that involved me to have one-on-one sessions with a mentor in Canada every single week, and I ensured that my network did not mess up. But when you are in this location, this part of the world that I am, you cannot be 100% in control of your network. Sometimes you might do everything right, and the network will just decide to frustrate you. So that was one challenge that I had. Another thing also was communication. Again, like I said, because the internship I did was an internship that involved me contributing to open source. So for those of us that don't really know what open source is basically technologies that their code base is available um to the public. So let's say for instance a company like Microsoft is not an open source company, but I want to use that based on the one you popularly know. Or let me even use a company that we all know. How many of us have heard of Wikipedia? If you know Wikipedia, just indicate in the chat box if you've heard of Wikipedia before. So Wikipedia is basically, anytime you just search a popular person and you're going to see Wikipedia giving you information, history about that person, the person's biography, or a company or anything. How many of you have seen that? If you have seen that before, just put it in the chat box. So Wikipedia, for instance, is owned by an open source organization called Wikimedia. So you can easily go on GitHub and find the code for Wikimedia organization available on GitHub. And anybody anywhere in the world can literally contribute to Wikimedia. You can contribute to the code base either as a developer, even if you're a writer, you can contribute to writing um posts about people. Some of those posts you see created by Wikipedia about people, organizations, and all that. You might surprise you to know that not people that worked on those posts are not necessarily paid by Wikimedia to work on those posts, but there are people all over the world, people like you and me, can just go there, contribute, following certain rules and regulations to contribute to a project. So yeah, it was an open source internship, and those are some of the challenges that I also faced. So even till now, right, working remotely for the past how many years is still a challenge. But um, the more experience you get working remotely, the easier it becomes, right? So like initially when I first started my first remote job, it was not as easy as it is now. Not that it's entirely easy, but I had more challenges at the time because I was still trying to understand the landscape, how I can confidently sit and put in the hours working without burning out. A lot of times people say things like the people who work remotely enjoy. I can see Patrick in the comment section. He says, he said, show me way. So a lot of people think that people who work remotely, you enjoy um, a lot because you don't have to go outside, you don't have to visit a company physically. But I can tell you for free that a lot of times it's not exactly like that, because the thing about remote work, especially if you're working with a company who is not in a country that is not in the same time zone with you. So let's say for instance you're in Nigeria and you're working with a company in Canada. Canada is definitely not in the same time zone with you. So your 12 noon, your 6 p.m. rather might be their early morning in Canada, which is pretty crazy, right? I just finished the internship I just finished working on now. My mentor was in Canada. So at 3 p.m. my time, where we usually have our one-on-one sessions, that's her 8 a.m. in the morning. So it was pretty crazy. So for you, you might sometimes need to work by 10 p.m., 11 p.m. If you've had experience like this before, you can indicate in the chat box. I can see Patrick, one of my guys, stating it in the chat box. So if you've had this experience, it might really be crazy because from 10 p.m., 11 p.m., sometimes 2 a.m., you might be working because the time zone of the company you are working with, to them it's their usual work hours. So a lot of times you have to figure out how you can adapt to their time zone. So there were some times that I will work throughout the night and then sleep throughout the day. of of course, that will not be when I'm in school. Maybe when I'm on holidays or now that I've graduated, it's easier for me. So sometimes I work for a long time during the night and then sleep during the day. So somebody outside, maybe that is in the same environment with me, would feel like, oh, I'm jobless, or the person might trying to call me around 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and it seems like I'm asleep. I had one crazy scenario some time ago where someone who knows me was like, yeah, I've been trying to call you. Why is that I'm always calling you by this time and you don't pick? I say, guy, I'm sleeping. No vex. That's my sleeping time. Because the person might feel like, by this time you are sleeping. Is that not being lazy? But if the person really looks into what I'm doing, I might even be hardworking more than the person. But we work different hours. So that's one of the struggles too of working remotely. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, are you somebody who can adapt to such work condition? Or are you somebody that you are okay with working, going to work 8 a.m. in the morning, coming back by 9 p.m.? Or if you work in Lagos and places where traffic and all, before you get home, it's already late. Or let's just say 9 to 5, which is the popular hours that a lot of people work. So if you're someone who is just okay with, leaving the office by 8 a.m. and coming back by 6 p.m., fine and good. You really have to figure out the reason why it's important. You have to figure this out is, especially if you are coming from a 9 to 5 perspective. Maybe you've been working 9 to 5 for a long time, and you want to move from working 9 to 5 to working remotely. It will be challenging for you at the initial point because this is not a system you are used to, especially when you don't have somebody that is supervising you. That's another challenge. So for some people who find it difficult to adapt and put in the work when nobody is watching them, because when you're working remotely, you are not on video call and people are monitoring whether you're working all through. So it's now left for you to develop the discipline for you to work even when nobody is watching you, or when nobody is um asking you to work. So that is some these are things you really need to look out for if it's remote work is something you should go into. So I think I can see more persons joining the call. If you're just joining, the call is being recorded. Don't worry, you still have access to the live session even when we end the call. But I want you to share the link to somebody. For those who have been following and you're getting value, please let me know in the comment section. Let me know if you are getting value some and you're actually understanding the whole remote work process. Because the essence of this live session, like I just explained, this first session is to help us understand the mindset behind working remotely. Because it's not just about saying, oh, I want to earn in dollars, oh, I want to earn in pounds, I want to make money online. You really have to understand if it's something you can do and something you're really willing to do. I've met a lot of people who initially came to me and said like, "Oh, I want to start working remotely. I'm learning this digital skill. How do I get companies that will pay me in foreign currencies?" And then when I give them the work involved, before you know it, in the next 1 2 weeks, they run away and they can't keep up. So that's why it's important. You have to understand um, the mindset. You have to understand the landscape of working remotely. So yeah, you have to really understand. Yes, somebody said without a supervisor, you have to understand that you are working without anybody supervising you. So if you're not someone that is that disciplined, you might want to reconsider and maybe consider other options like working 9 to 5 and visiting a company. Okay, so all right, thank you, Marvel. I can see you are gaining value. So once again, like the video, subscribe if you are not subscribed, share it to someone out there, share it on your status and to people out there who will want to join the session. So yeah, the next thing we have looked at benefits and challenges of working remotely. And now, so since you've listened to the challenges and the benefits, you now have to now make a decision. I want to work remotely. So if you now want to work remotely, the next thing I want to talk about now is cultivating a growth mindset for remote success. I want you guys to stay tuned to the end because in the next series, we're going to be talking about top 10 digital skills that you need to have right now in order for you to start working remotely. So, like I said, it's going to be a 10 weeks series where we'll have one live session every week, 1 hour max. And there's a lot to actually gain. So, yeah, cultivating a growth mindset for remote success. Now, the first thing you have to look at now is that now that you've understood these challenges, you now have to embrace the challenges. All right, one thing that has helped me over the years is that I decided that, hey, this is something I want to do, and this is something I really want to do. For those of us that follow me on LinkedIn, you can search my name on LinkedIn. You figure out that I've been building there for a while now. And beyond the challenges and all, what I now see those challenges as is a means to grow, right? So for me, it's an opportunity for me to grow. I learn from my mistakes, learn from the challenges, and cultivate that growth mindset all around. And number two, under cultivating a growth mindset, number two thing that will help you is that you have to be a continuous learner. You see this one? You can literally just wake up one morning and figure out that what you knew yesterday is no longer valid when it comes to working remotely, digital skills in general. you can really figure out that what you know today is irrelevant in the next 6 months. It can be relevant, so you have to be a continuous learner. I feel this is actually something that works generally, even if you're not working remotely, even if you're working a 9 to 5. You have to be a continuous learner if you want to consistently provide value and position you as somebody who will be paid a lot of money to work. You have to consistently provide value, right? It's amazing that, especially if you want to work in tech, it's amazing that a lot of people make this mistake and they think that, oh, I've taken this master class, I attended this boot camp, and that is where it stops. I can tell you, if you really want to be somebody that will remain relevant, especially working remotely or being involved in digital skills, you have to understand that it will always get to a point where you can't do without continuous learning. You have to consistently figure out how to get better at what you do. What are the new technologies that are coming out? For instance, I read the news from last 2 weeks ago, or I think it was last week. Microsoft dropped an update that they were going to um, scrap the company called Skype. How many of us have heard about Skype? If you heard about Skype before, type it in the chat box. If you've heard about Skype, Skype was a video conferencing application, just like you have Zoom now and Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. That was just how Skype was. But as of last week, Microsoft dropped an update because they bought Skype for billions of dollars. So Microsoft dropped an update that they were going to scrap Skype. Now they were going to disable Skype for all the users, and they were going to put more emphasis on Microsoft Teams. Now, why that happened was because Skype was not able to really upgrade to more recent platforms features like Microsoft Teams and Google Meet. So, because of that inability to continuously learn, they were not able to upgrade their features. So what now happened is that, of course, the way technology works is it will take you to if you get to a point where if you don't learn continuously, if you don't upgrade your skill set, if you don't upgrade to the current trends, it will get to a point where you'll be left behind. For instance, artificial intelligence is going to take your jobs away. That's what a lot of people say. Meanwhile, there's a video I made about how you can use. There's a playlist I have about how you can use artificial intelligence to help you in your day-to-day activities, help you in your job search, help you make money. There's a playlist I have on that. You can just search for the playlist on my channel and consume the videos there. So in the day and the time of artificial intelligence is no longer a thing to debate about, right? That we are in the era of artificial intelligence, and we are in an era where if you don't upgrade your skills to a point where you can use AI in your day-to-day activities, there's no such thing as, you see this thing that people say, I'm not a tech person, oh, technology is not my thing. There's no such thing as that. Because for every career you are going into now, for every skill that you are learning now, if you don't figure out a way to use technology to advance your skill, to make you better, you'll be left behind. You'll just figure out one day that somebody has invented a software, somebody has built an application that can do exactly what you know how to do, even better than you. There are so many tools like that these days, right? Especially in the medical field, in the tech world, any niche at all you find yourself. So what you have to really understand is that continuous learning is key. If you want to start making money online, you want to start working remotely, continuous learning is key. If you are somebody that finds it difficult to learn continuously, to upgrade, I'm sorry, remote work might not be for you. But if you're somebody that loves learning, come on, this is where you should be. Digital skills are things that you should dip your hands into. If you are somebody that enjoys learning, you are always involved in research. You are always involved in putting in the work in terms of trying to understand what is happening now, what is the current trend, what is the new information available, how can I use this new information to help me in my day-to-day activity. Okay, so very, very important. The third thing you have to consider in cultivating a growth mindset for remote success is what I call resilience and adaptability. Now, like I said, change will always come, change will always happen, especially if you are working with a fast-paced company. There was a company I worked with that during the 2 years I worked with the company, the tools that I learned within that 2 years, I learned how to use within that 2 years, were tools that I've never used before. But I was resilient enough to be patient and learn those tools, do my research, because a lot of times, I already explained, you might not have a direct supervisor that is willing to hold your hand every step of the way. Of course, you might have a manager and people who you report to, but not somebody who is ready to jump on the call every single day just to teach you something. They might just send you a link. Okay, go and read about this resource, go and learn about this software, and in the next week you are using the software. That is why I explained continuous learning is key. So resilience is very, very important. If you're still following me to this point, I need you to type in the chat box: resilience and adaptability is key. So if you're someone who wants to work remotely, you want to work with companies all over the world and provide value to them while they pay you money in exchange for your value, resilience and adaptability is key. So type that in the chat box: resilience and adaptability. And now that we've understood how to, the growth mindset behind remote work success, the next thing I would like to really talk about is what I titled practical strategies to kickstart online earnings or working remotely. Now, um, beyond in the next video, like I explained, I'm gonna show you guys the top digital skills that you should be learning now in 2025 in order to stay updated and start working remotely. These are skills that are very, very in demand. So you really, really want to stay tuned to this session and set a reminder for that session. So yeah, practical strategies to kickstart online earnings. Number one, identify your marketable skills. Now, there are existing skills that you can explore, and there are new ones you need to explore in order to get started working remotely. One of those skills is not even exactly your technical skill, like some of us are already familiar with. I'm not talking about a technical skill, I'm talking about your soft skills. What are soft skills? If you started this session from the beginning, you followed me from the beginning, you will hear when I talked about communication, I talked about adaptability. These are soft skills. So let's say you are a graphics designer, you work with a company in Canada, for instance, and you are in Nigeria working as a graphics designer with a global company. Now, for someone who is in that position, one of the skills you really, really need to have beyond just your graphics design skills, being good at what you do in terms of graphics design, is communication. Because it is one thing for you to have a skill, you are a good designer, then it's another thing for you to communicate your value to an employer or communicate your value to an interview person or a recruiter. For instance, I've seen scenarios, I've trained a lot of people in the past, and I've seen people who are very, very good at what they do, right? They might actually even be one of, if you count top 10 in their geographical location, they are included in the top 10. But one of the problems that they have is the ability for them to communicate their value. I've seen experiences where people who are into UI UX, for instance, you are UI UX designer, you might even be the best, you might be a very good developer or whatever skill that you have. But someone who is not as good as you, but is still very good, might be earning more money than you, bringing more value to the table than you, because they are able to communicate their value. What do I mean by this? Let me make it more practical. Uche is a graphics designer, and Peter is another graphics designer. But Uche has been doing graphics design for 5 years. Peter has been doing graphics design for 3 years. But Uche, who has been doing graphics design for 5 years, is not earning enough recognition or enough money as much as Peter, who has been doing graphics design for 3 years. There are so many scenarios like that. So many factors are included. But one of the major factors is the inability for you to communicate your value. So, one skill you need to learn is communication. And two, this is one I can really talk about from morning till night. You see, personal branding is very, very key. But we'll have a separate session for that as time goes on throughout the playlist or throughout the series. So communication is key. That's one marketable skill you really, really, really need to develop is the ability for you to communicate, and especially to a global audience. Because if you want to get paid in foreign currency, you have to really understand how to communicate in foreign language. When I mean foreign language, excellence is a global language. You want to communicate in a global language, which is excellence. And the ability for you to communicate what you do sometimes is even more excellent than the ability for you to be 100% good at what you do in terms of your technical skill. So these are things you really, 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 really need to look into. Secondly, setting achievable goals is key, right? You need to set goals that will help you measure progress that are relevant to remote work. For instance, you want to start learning a skill. In the next session, I will go deeper into this. We want to talk about skills where you can learn top five digital skills. Now, you want to start learning a skill that you're able to work remotely with a company, a global company. First thing you have to look out for is that don't just don't be the one that feels like, oh, I will just learn this skill today in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks, and I'm already making mad money from it. If you have that mindset, it might shock you that in the next 5, 6 months you might not earn a dime. Right. So the best thing you should do is that set smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound. So you need to set goals that, okay, I will spend this period of time learning a particular skill, learning this digital skill. And after I've spent this time and I've built projects, I've built a portfolio. There's someone I'm mentoring who wants to be a social media manager. And I gave her access to some paid courses that normally you pay thousands of dollars for, but I have access to them for free based on certain things I've done before. So during the process of, she gives me reports every single day based on her progress and all that. And the goal is that I told her to give herself 6 months of learning and building projects, building a portfolio that proves that she's a social media manager before she begins to apply for jobs. Now, why is this important? Anybody can come on the online space and call him, his or herself, a social media manager. But not everybody can really show social media pages they have managed, social media pages they have helped meet their KPI, social media pages that they have helped using their skill set make the company more money or make sales online through their social media pages. Not everybody can show that. And now, the reason why a lot of people complain that a particular niche is more saturated, like it's oversaturated, someone said this. I love the way the person put it. He said, there is no competition at the top. I need to type that. If you're following me, type that in the chat box. There is no competition at the top. So you might feel like a particular niche. For instance, I hear people say graphics design is very crowded. Of course, no doubt it's crowded. There are lots of people who have the skill currently. But I can tell you for a fact that there are people who are still complaining that their own problem is that they are getting too much jobs. Are we still following? If you're following me and you are getting value from this session, I need you to indicate in the comment section. Just type value, value, value. Let me know that you are following me. So there are people going back to my story of a graphics designer, my scenario about a graphics designer. So I know graphics designers that though even as crowded as the industry is, they are complaining that they have too many jobs that they can handle. Now, is if you really check it critically, look at it critically, you see that the problem is not that there are a lot of people who are graphics designers. You will figure out that the real problem is that there are a lot of people who are graphics designers, but they are not result oriented. So you now see someone who is result oriented, who has social proof, who has companies that they've been of value to, and they have results. These are people who will be able to milk more money working remotely than somebody who just came up and learned graphic design for 2, 3 months and decide to market themselves as a graphic designer. So yes, there is no competition at the top. So what you want to do is that before you start learning any skill, any digital skill, you want to ensure that that particular skill you are learning, you are setting a target to give yourself a period of time where you will learn. Like I said, my first job working remotely was as a graphics designer. And as a graphics designer at that time, I had other graphics designers who have been taking gigs earlier, way earlier than I was. But when my first international gig was the UK company, like I already said, why was that possible? I was the company itself was the one that sent me a message. Why? They were able to see the things I've done online. They were able to see the value I bring to the table without me having to do so much of applying to hundreds of jobs at the same time. But they were able to really see my value. They were able to see companies that can say, if you go to my LinkedIn section now, you see my recommendation section, you will see people who have worked with me that can testify of the value I bring to the table. So I'm not just somebody that will come and tell you I can do this, I can do that, and I don't have proof of how I've done it before in the past. People who have done it for that have gained results. So this is the mindset you should have when you are coming on the online space. You want to work remotely, you want to start learning digital skills. This is the exact mindset you should have. I am going to be of value to any company I'm going to work with. And I can prove my value by showing them my portfolio. Now, portfolio that I mean now, I don't mean portfolio like maybe you're a social media manager, you now show them, oh, um, this is my portfolio website, you do a design, put some fine graphics and all that, you're a social media manager. That's not what I'm talking about. Can you show me if you want to manage, if I want to hire you to manage my Instagram page? The first thing I will ask you, I wouldn't even bother asking you for your CV and all that. Of course, I'll go through your CV. But what I'm more interested in is who and who have you worked for? First things first, even if you have not worked for any company before, your personal social media pages. You cannot be claiming to be a social media manager when your personal social media pages are nothing to write home about. So you want to tell me that you are able to, you know, get me more clients on Instagram by posting my content and posting what I do? The first question I will ask you is, have you been able to get clients for yourself on Instagram? As simple as that. If you don't have that, then you can't really convince me that you are good at what you do. You might be good. I'm not saying that such a person is not good. But the ability for you to communicate your value, that is something you really need to look out for before you start talking about working remotely. So yeah, I've talked about setting achievable goals and building an online presence. Like what I just talked about now is majorly about building online presence and setting achievable goals. So these are things you really, really need to consider. I don't know how I can scream this at the top of my voice for you to really understand, but I think a lot of us are getting what I'm saying. And if you're getting what I'm saying, please and please like this video, drop in the comment section that you can't wait for the next session, because I'm going to be bringing what I call 4 years of radical experience. All right, when people ask me a lot of questions, especially when it comes to working remotely, building digital skills, I get lots and lots of questions every single day. So that's why I decided to host this YouTube live session where every week we'll have a topic we'll talk about, demystifying the entire remote work experience and ensure that you get value for your time. So, guys, this guy say next session loading. So, I'm going to be stopping here, but and to allow us ask our questions. Probably, if you have any questions you want to ask about, the mindset. Maybe you've heard about working remotely, and there are certain myths that you've heard about that you are not really sure of. Oh, somebody told you not everybody can work remotely. You have to be this specific kind of person in order for you to work remotely. Or somebody told you, oh, you cannot actually earn in dollars. You must earn in your local currency. If you have any of those questions, this is the right time for you to. The chat box is there. Just type it in the chat box and then I will answer. Now, the reason I decided to do this is because maybe in the course of this session, there were some questions in your mind that I didn't get to answer, talking about the mindset to remote work. So if you've heard about certain things that probably you're confused about. Maybe they told you you're working in 9 to 5 and you cannot move transition to working remotely. Go ahead, let me know. I will let you know if that is true or not based on personal experience and also experience of other people I've worked with and other people I've trained in the past. So go ahead, type in the chat box if you have any questions. I'll give us a few minutes for us to do that. and then I'll answer your questions. For those that have joined so far, I can see John, Lawson, Marvel, Developer Kings, Promise. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate. This is my first live session ever on YouTube, and I've done a lot of trainings online, but I think YouTube is pretty different. I think I'll be better in the next session because I really have to understand how to navigate the platform better, especially when it comes to doing a live session. So I think from the next session, the outlook and the whole experience will be much better than this. So yeah, go ahead and ask your questions. Ask your questions. Type your questions in the chat, and I will answer and give you feedback for to your question. So yeah, I'm waiting. Go ahead, go ahead. Ask your questions. I can't see anybody asking any question about the mindset working remotely, how to start working remotely, how to start making money online, basically anything about the mindset. Because the first things first is if you don't believe you can work remotely, no matter what, if you don't believe you can make money online, like from the comfort of your bedroom, no matter what anybody tells you, you won't make money because it first begins from the ability for you to believe that this is something you can do. And if you're a student here, oh, it's even easier for you because you are looking at somebody who started while he was a student. So there's really nothing like, oh, I have to wait till I'm done with school. As long as you have the skills, the right skill set for it, you can actually begin shooting your shots and working remotely. So I'm waiting for our questions. Do you have questions? Go ahead and ask your questions. For those of us that are just joining, or you joined late, don't worry. Once we end this live call, you have access to the recording where you can take your time, go through it, take notes as you prepare for the next session. Same time next week by 6 p.m. on the dot if you are working with West African time, or 6 p.m. GMT plus one, wherever it is you're watching from. Okay, so I can see a question. I want to make sure this call doesn't exceed an hour, so that's what I'm trying to ensure we keep to time. Can you explain the concept of remote internships? Okay, yeah. Like I explained already, anything remote has to do with you working from the comfort of your bedroom, anywhere you are in the world, right? You can work as long as you have the right tools for it. That's the same thing with remote internships. But for internships, the difference between an internship and a full-time job is that most times internships are for a period of time, sometimes 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, depending on the company policy. Some internships can even last for a year. But the difference between an internship and a full-time role is that internships are short, like I already explained. And secondly, internships are more focused on entry level. So you don't need to have so much experience. Or sometimes some internships will tell you don't even need to have any experience. Come and we're going to train you. So those are internships. But a full-time remote job, it's sometimes they will tell you have to have like 2 3 years 4 years, depending on the role you are applying for, 5 years work experience for you to be hired full-time. Now the essence of experience is that you have to the experience sometimes is proof that you bring value to the table. So someone who has been doing something for 3 4 years, you can't compare that person to someone who just started working in that same niche. So I believe that answers the question. So remote internships are internships that are shorter, within the space of 2 3 4 6 months, and also they are more entry level. So sometimes you don't need to have any experience, while sometimes you just need to have 0 to 1 year of experience in order to be hired as an intern. Okay, so the next question I see here is regarding working remotely. What if you do not have anything to show or haven't built a personal brand that portrays you as excellent? What is the way? Yes. So, like I explained, we're going to be talking about all these in the coming sessions. So, make sure you stay tuned. So, if you don't really have anything to show, first, like I already explained, first things first is, do you have the skills? If you have the skills, have you built personal projects? Have you volunteered with your skills? Have you, even if you're not being paid for it, even if you're not, it's not a full-time job, have you used those skill sets to actually show that you can do the skill? Because, like I explained, going back to my graphics design example, it's one thing for you to be a graphics designer. Then it's another thing for you to be a graphics designer that has built multiple projects, that have done designs for people, and those designs help those businesses move forward. So that is the first thing you need to look out for before you talk about building a personal brand. Do you have the skill? That is why in the next session we'll talk about top 10 digital skills you need to learn today. So for some of us, I'll be asking me questions like, oh, I want to learn digital skills so that I'll start working remotely. What are the I'm confused about the skill to learn. Oh, should I go for passion or go for the money? A lot of us ask that question. So do I focus on I have passion for this skill, I have passion for this job? Or do I focus on, oh, AI is trending and they said if you go into AI you will make more money? A lot of people have been there and they figured out that it's beyond just the trends. So you have to really understand if it's something you can do and something you're willing to put in the work. There was something I told somebody a few days ago. And if you can type this in the comment section, I'll really appreciate. Interest and discipline we always beat passion. I go again. Interest and discipline will always beat passion. So it is one thing for you to say, "Oh, I have passion for this skill. I have passion for this technology," but someone else who might not really have so much passion in quotes, but has interest and is disciplined enough to spend time learning, the person will always be faster than someone who supposedly has passion but is not disciplined enough to learn. So interest and discipline will always beat passion. I just dropped the punchline there, Sha. Okay, so the final question I would take: do you get paid for remote internship? Of course, there are so many of them. I recently just finished one, which the pay was pretty good. For some of us that are interested, you can search for Outreachy. I just finished one of recent. So there are certain internships that pay you, while there are some that don't pay you, but the ones that pay you very well, while there are some that don't pay you very well. But like I said, the whole idea of internship is not necessarily for you to make so much more money. Internship is like a is pushing you into the the career industry. Internship is an opportunity for you to pick up a new skill, a new technology skill, or a new entering into a new, what's it called, a new community. For instance, maybe you want to get into artificial intelligence, you have been learning for a period of time, and you want to really get hands-on experience without being hired full time. Maybe you think that you're not up to the point where you can get a full-time job because of experience. Internship is a way you can do that, and some of them have they pay very well, while there are some that don't really pay much. So it depends on your research and the right opportunities that come your way. All right. So I believe we've gained a lot of value from this session. If you've gained value, use the reaction, drop a love reaction, drop a 100% reaction, type value, value, value in the comment section. If you got value from this session and you are excited to join the next session. So once again, in the next session, we're going to be talking about the top 10 digital skills you are to learn in 2025 in order for you to get started working remotely. Because the whole idea, I want every single one of us that joins this session, after the videos that I'm going to be posting, or after the live sessions, the whole idea is that in the end you are able to gain every single knowledge that you need to get in order to get started working remotely. So the next thing I would just want you to do is you start learning your skills. If you already have the skills, you know how to use those skills to get better at what you do, to attract opportunities, and also where to find these opportunities. In one of the sessions, we're going to be talking about that. So, thank you guys for joining today's session. Once again, my name is Richard Chuku, and as usual, stay rich. If you are watching this video after the live session, one thing I want you to do for me is, anywhere I ask you to drop anything in the comment section, go ahead and drop it in the comment section and share the video to your friends who are interested in working remotely so that they can get access to the video. Then I think I'll also create a group chat, a community where I can easily share the link to those interested. So I'll create a community where every one of you will be part of that community. So you can be alerted exactly when the next live session begins. See you next Friday, same time, and we'll get right into the next session. Thank you guys for joining. Have an amazing day or have an amazing night if it's night where you are. Bye.